Hello, everybody.
Hi.
I'm going to get this Zoom recording. Okay, there we go. So the goal, again, is to walk through the IRB application. Anybody with questions before we get started? Anybody with questions? All right, I don't want to leave you out if you do, but okay, we'll just get right going then. So when you go to fill out your IRB application, what you will be doing is you'll be pairing this with the presentation you've made for the end of the course, and you'll probably be even adding to that perhaps, or refining it based on what the conversation that we have about it. But you're going to be also including with that, and even some other things, perhaps this IRB application form. Now, my goal today is just to walk through. I want to get to this whole thing. I'm not going to be able to read every single line on it, but we should be able to get a great feel for what these questions are asking for. Hopefully, let's just assume it's everybody's first time looking at this document, but everybody can see the document, right? You're having head shakes, that's good, okay. All right, so it says this form must be approved prior to any student, prior, what is going on? Why won't, okay, it's wanting me to fill something in. Okay, so right now I can't actually click on it, but my mouse, can you see, I'm not sure if you see my mouse here or not. Good, you can. This form must be approved prior to any student, undergraduate, undergraduate, faculty, staff conducting research. Again, we talked about if you were in a timeline and you wanted to start, just realize that if you do start and you get blasted or this doesn't, or the question for whatever reason isn't liked by your advisor or the IRB board, you may be wasting your time. So it is suggested that you don't do any research yet. If you have a longer timeline, it's suggested that you talk with Dana and you get that approved, but it probably isn't going to be approved. She's going to probably want you to take to start the timeline of the research and then push your EDU C600 back a little bit. But anyway, the goal is don't start your research until you've been approved. You can't handwrite this. It needs to be typed, professional. Okay, some of this stuff. Submit the complete IRB application form with the signature. You need to complete the project within 1 year of your IRB approval, which again, that's after this. And this is going to be, this is a live document, and these fields are live. So you can click in here and actually put your title in, click in here, put your name in. So you'll be filling all of this stuff out. This is easy information up top. Have you completed the training, the HP training for the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services website found there? Yes, no, you're turning that in this week. So I do hope that you have walked through that $40 process. You're going to sign, signature, date of approval. Understand checking the box constitutes legal signature. Questions on the first page. Again, we're just rolling through this. There's more nuanced things to come. And this really isn't the reason. This first page isn't the reason I want to talk about this today. There's more nuanced things to come. If you do have a question, I'm not seeing everybody at one time on my screen, so you need to just open up the mic and call out to me. So page 2, first of all, it's talking about, is this research? So first question A, is this project being conducted solely to fulfill the course requirements with no intention to share the results beyond the classroom? You can put yes or no on that. I hope that each one of you have a goal to share this beyond the classroom. I hope each one of you want to go to a state association and share what you've learned. You want to go to a larger national association and or conversation or meeting or organizational get together, or whatever you want to, professional development. I hope all of you want to share the results of what you're going to be working so hard on, or perhaps your association's journal or a newsletter or something like that. Get yourself published in some way. There's lots of opportunities for that, and I'd love to help anybody out with that. So I hope you put no for the first question, but is this project a pilot study? Would it be like to use the study to launch future investigations in which you would reuse the data? That's up to you. That's up to what it is that you're studying. Would you consider using the study for publications or dissemination at a later date, including research presentations on or off campus? Again, that's up to you. I'd hope the answer would be yes. It says, if you answered yes to A and no to B and C, you are not conducting research under the federal definition, which means you need to be able to, you really should be able to push this out and have other people see it. It should be not just something you're doing for this course. Okay, do the proposed activities involve a systematic approach? A systematic approach involves a predetermined method or plan for studying a specific topic, answering a specific question, testing a specific hypothesis. Your answer should be yes to that question, because you're going to have a method to your madness when you set out to actually do the study. You're going to have reasons as to why you're doing this study. Reasons as to why you're using a survey and not using interviews, or why you aren't using interviews and you're using just a case study or something. Is the intent of the proposed activities to develop or continue to generalizable scholarly knowledge? Yes, it better be. If you answer, and here's a catch-all, if you answered no to A through G, you may stop here and submit the form, because you don't have an ARP. You do not have useful research, and you need to work with your advisor. So are there human participants? Yes, there will be, and then you get a lot of questions about what kind of human participants. What is the research question? You will type out the simple research question that we have talked about, which I've emailed you about, I've asked you for several times throughout this course. That's, again, why it's so important to be able to encapsulate in just a little bit exactly what your research question is. I hope you can all do that right now off the top of your head. I really do. What's the purpose of the research? Here we go, 200 to 500 words. If you dig back through some of the things that you've written for this course, you'll probably find that. You'll probably find a problem statement, what it is that you are trying to overcome. Briefly describe, okay, written in the future tense because you haven't done this yet. What questions do you hope to answer? Summarize the proposed research activity. Briefly describe your data. So there's some guidelines for what they're looking for there. When is the data collection for the research intended to begin? You're going to give a beginning and ending date. You're going to let them know what time you want to begin, what time you want to end. Because the IRB needs to see, oh, this can't stretch over 3 years. It's got to be over an 8-week period or shorter. Do you believe that your project may fall under one of the following categories of research that are exempt from this policy? If you request an exemption, okay, so number 1, research conducted in an established or commonly accepted educational settings involving normal educational practices. That's what many of you are doing. 2, 3, research involving the use of educational tests, survey procedures, again, what many of you are doing. 4, research involving the collection of study of existing data. You could do that. So if someone wants to do a literature review, someone wants to do a study review of various studies which have been completed, all of that is possible. All of that can be done, and it's done well. 5, we want, and by the way, you want to get these exemptions. One of these exemptions is what you want. Research and demonstration projects which are conducted by participants, the approval of department. Yep, that could be what you're doing. You're working with the department head to develop the program. Or you could do a taste through quality evaluation. Don't do that one. So special populations, you're going to walk through. If you're dealing with minors, you'll be careful with minors. You'll need to consent with the parents. A lot of you will be checking yes to that box. Some of you will be checking yes to that box anyway. You won't be working with legally incompetent prisoners, pregnant women, institutionalized, or mentally incapacitated people. If you are, switch your project, because they're not going to approve an action research project at this level dealing with those subjects. It's too much, it's too hard. There's too much red tape there. I'm pretty sure they won't. I haven't seen them do one yet, so I'm thinking that would. Does the research deal with the questions concerning sexual behaviors, drug use, illegal conduct, use of alcohol? Stay away from those things as well, because again, your scope in this research project is much smaller than what those things usually call for. Participant pool, expected number of participants or sample size. Do you got to have that nailed down? You should have a really good guess. You should have walked through and seen how many principals are in the association, which you possibly might want to be looking through, digging up phone numbers. And you should know approximately how many students could be in your classroom in the upcoming year when you run this study. You should know that. You can come up with an educated guess on those sort of things. So do it. And that's what this is asking for. Somebody's calling in.
Quick question. Is there a number that is a good target number we should shoot for? Like they're going to shoot it down if it's... No. Okay.
No. This is totally subjective. It's totally personal. It's entirely wrapped up in your project. So Katie, what are you going to be working on? Turn on your mic.
sorry, if I'm dealing with my class size of students, if I know that I'll have anywhere from 20 to 25, I'd put that down.
So you have a regular class size. It would be great if you could get several teachers involved with this.
So that it could be bigger.
The merrier.
Okay.
What you have, though, remember, as we looked at this week with action, as we looked at last week with the handout, Action Research Project, it's based on what you have available to you, based on what is meaningful to you and your school. I was speaking with somebody earlier today who's going to do probably a single student study because it's a homeschool mom.
Okay.
It is what it is. Yeah, have as many as possible. You will be better off. You will have more publishable material. You have more scientifically accurate material, more statistically significant material, the more you have. But sometimes that's not how the study shakes out. So just, those numbers, you're going to be honest about what you have available to you.
Okay.
But it'll be different for each one of you. So describe, anybody else on that one? That's usually a hang up. You and your advisor will walk through what you have, but what I'm telling you is you have available what you have available to you. And what we don't want you to do is to try to work with the state association 5 states away, but you have no contact with. That's not really a viable option for you. We want you to work within the context of what you already have available to you, so you can be assured that you have, or you can be as assured as you can be that you'll have a viable participant pool, sample pool. Describe your intended participant pool. So you'll walk through gender, affiliation, mental health status, physical health status. There's a lot of I'll call it boilerplate wording that will go into this, and you can even look it up elsewhere. So for general state mental health, you could say something like, the population may be assumed to have a normal state of mental health. Things like that. You will say those overt expressions of obvious things over and over and over and over and over again. That's part of what this process includes. Physical health. Participants may be expected to have a normal state of physical health or be in a healthy state, you can put it that way. Why have you chosen this particular group for the study? That could be as easy as, it's who I have available to me. I live in Alaska with the Inuits and I have no one else available, so I have to study Inuits. What is your relationship to participants? Disclose that. If you're going to be an inside researcher, that should be part of the methodology. Should be, as Cresswell talks about, you should be telling us that you are an inside researcher. If you happen to be the mother of the homeschooler, you're going to be telling us that. Participant recruiting. So participant recruiting, maybe you've actually had some of these things come your way before. Maybe you have been a teacher who somebody else has been working on a study and you got asked to be in the study. And the study author said, hey, and I will buy everybody who participates a Kit Kat bar and I will send it to you in the mail. Or they say, I will have a drawing which your name will be entered into, and I will pick a name out of the hat, and that person who participated in the study will receive a $50 Amazon gift card. Those things are fine. If you want to do that to gain participants in a survey where you have a general pool but you don't know who will answer, that's fine. You can do that. It's not required. It's not expected. At this level, I haven't seen the need to do it so far. And anybody that I've been advising, they've had their participants willingly give back to them. So I think that you won't need to do that, but you could if you wanted to, or if you're going to perhaps advertise with a poster or advertise with a general email, an email blast, all of those things, you would write that down there. Exclusions. So who would you exclude from the study? So you can see the example. Detailed procedures. Procedures. Describe how participants will be involved in detail. So this is going to be part of your methodology, which we've already walked through a little bit. What's the setting? Online survey. Where will they be? Wherever they want to be. Will they be alone or in a group? Well, if you're studying the amount of recess a student gets, and you are going to be doing observations, you're going to be out there with them. And so you're going to be describing how you will be a part of the group running around and going crazy at recess time. Whatever it's going to be, you're going to be talking about that right there. Will the participants experience any discomfort? The answer will be no. and you shouldn't have to put anything down there. Do not get too far into your head on questions like that. It's a common sense thing. Is the question you're going to ask make them experience discomfort? If you are asking general questions about what they feel about life, how they feel about their teachers, how they feel about education, you can expect that that's not going to cause discomfort. Could it for one student? Possibly, yeah. But you do not intend to. There's the famous case of one of you probably knows this, and I'm going to get it wrong. But the gentleman who's sitting at the buzzer, and he is repeatedly told to hit the buzzer, which is supposedly delivering a shock to the person behind him. The person through the wall, but the person through the wall deserves it. And so it's just a test on how far people will go, even in hurting other people when commanded to do so. So that would be a case of causing discomfort, emotional discomfort, because you are making this person have to reconsider held morals. Anyway, will deception or false or misleading information be used in your procedures? Probably not. So you can say that. That's a check mark. Electronic internet online research. Okay, are you conducting a survey using electronic media? A lot of you will be saying yes to that. How will the data be transmitted? You'll want to talk about how that will be, you're going to talk about this is Google Forms, it's a type form, it's something else, SurveyMonkey. Is a survey host, and here it lists a few used, most likely, yeah. Will the host retain identifiable data? So will SurveyMonkey retain the emails of everybody who provides an answer? Well, that's something you should find out from SurveyMonkey, from Google Forms. The usual answer is no, but you'll need to find that out. Will the data be encrypted? And you can just contact them for that. Will the data be encrypted? So usually the answer will also be no. You're not going to have them answer in code as you ask these questions. Explain how data are maintained. So you're going to talk about how you are going to receive the data, hold it on a Google sheet or hold it on an Excel sheet or print it off and actually store it somewhere in a binder. It will be individually identifiable form, aggregate form, anonymized. You're going to pick. You're going to say, I'm actually going to keep names with the responses. I'm not going to keep any names with responses. They're going to be numbered 1 through 20, and I don't know who it is. Is it going to be an aggregate form where the answers are all combined and you don't know who goes to which answer? That's up to you. It's up to you and your study. You're going to have to prove as to why it will be appropriate, but it's up to you and your study. Will the data be shared? Well, usually, yeah. Data will be shared with your public, hopefully. And how and with whom, you're going to walk through that. Will aggregated, anonymized data be made publicly available? So in this case, will the information which you are going to publish, because you're going to get this published, of course, will you want to publish this? You should choose yes to this, most likely. And then if yes, will participants be able to be re-identifiable? Why or why not? This is a case of, so you're working with a bunch of teachers in your school, and you're asking them questions which could be incriminating to some degree or not. You don't want the principal reading this and knowing exactly who said what. So you're going to have to find a way, if you share demographic information, of keeping the demographic information very far away from the aggregated and anonymized data, or you're going to need to not provide identifiable characteristics matched to a specific answer. So again, going back to, let's say we are Karen Howard's working on a study of missionaries in the field. and let's say she's working on missionaries in the field, and she comes across an answer of a certain family of a specific nationality that would make them the sole nationality on that missions board. So there's only one Tasmanian on that missions board, and she says something like, "The Tasmanian respondent said this." Well, people who are on that mission board, a part of that mission board, they're going to know the other missionaries, and they're going to be able to say, "Oh, well, that's Julie Smith with that answer." That's a problem. You can't do that. So talk about why you're not going to make that happen. So figure out in your head before you go. This is going to make you figure out, I'm going to list my participants with a number, with a non-name, with something else. When I say non-name, I mean a name which is not their own, but still a recognizable name. So figure that out, and that's what you're going to work on here. Describe the data security plan. If you're using Google Forms, you are relying on Google to be a safe place, which that's not an unreliable thought. There are many companies which do the same exact thing. They rely on Google Drive and Google. If you're using SurveyMonkey, how is it going to be kept hid? Are you going to print it out and keep it under lock and key somewhere? Are you going to destroy it after a while? Will survey results be posted on a website that could be accessed by individuals other than the investigators? So are you going to create a website and then post all this information and work on this website, and somebody else going to come along behind you and see what you're working on? Probably not, but is a survey... Somebody trying to buzz in? Okay. If a survey link is sent to participants, will the URL for the survey include information that could identify individuals such as a student ID? So you could make unique URLs to be sent to everybody. Maybe you're that tech savvy. Most likely, the URL which you make up one time will be the same URL you send to 40 or 50 people. In that case, you can simply say no to this and then provide the URL. If not, say yes and explain it. If you are sending out an email invitation to participants to complete a survey, will you assure the participant was only see his or her name, which means use the CC or the blind CC? Will you have the read receipt function turned off? Well, will you? Are you going to go in there and make sure that's the case? If you answered no in the question, to question I, please explain why. Your survey contains questions where the participants choose from a drop-down menu. Do they have the option to choose no response or leave the questions blank? Talk about that. And then on part 4, we've moved quickly. A lot of this stuff is common sense. Take the question for what it is, answer the question for what it is. Google it. That's fine. Just call me up. Risk. Describe all risks. And this is a paragraph. A response of not applicable will not be accepted. Again, this would be possibly boilerplate language. If you look down here, is the research minimal risk? Minimal risk means the probability and magnitude of harm or discomfort anticipated in the research are not greater in and of themselves than those ordinarily encountered in daily life. You can use that in the line before, copy and paste. Do you believe those risks greater than normal, greater than minimal? If risks are greater than minimal, describe the following. For many of you, the answer to this is going to be absolutely not. Some of you might need to think, is the information I'm asking for somehow condemning, somehow problematic, somehow going to get them in trouble? Mostly, as I've heard all of your points thus far, the answer is no. You're not asking for government secrets. What procedures have you established for reporting adverse events should they occur? Think through that. I wouldn't say none. I would say something there. But a procedure could be something along the lines of, I have incorporated a way for a person to withdraw themselves from the study or to simply stop answering, and therefore their answers will not be concluded in the study. What are the benefits to society at large as a result of this project? You should hear implications. Implications. What are the implications for this study? Will you offer incentives, reimbursements of costs, or compensation to participants? If you are, again, just make it known here. Okay, number 6, confidentiality and anonymity. Can the participants be identified directly or through any type of identifiers? Well, if you're going to say yes, Okay, that's fine. Tell us why. Tell us about your yes. And I'll use my own research. It was so in my research, I was very interested in gathering the responses of minority school leaders in Christian schools in Maryland. And so it was very pertinent to me that I actually matched answers with demographic information. Well, it's fine to do that, but it's not fine to deliver those answers in such a way that someone is able to, again, figure out who it is without much effort. So if you're going to preserve anonymity, how are you going to do so? If data will not be anonymous, explain the procedures you will use to protect the confidentiality of the data. During the data process collection, while being analyzed, in publication, in and after storage. Consent. So you will be able to find consent forms wherever you would like. Your advisors might have a couple possibilities for you. You and your advisor might want to write a new one for a study. But again, boilerplate information, it might even be best to use one that's been used in the past. How will you assure that participation is voluntary? The first question you'll ask them is, do you understand that this is voluntary and no one is forcing you to, and not to check yes or no, and if they said no, they'll be kicked out of the study, or just they won't be able to finish the study or something. Special circumstances. Do any special circumstances exist within your participant pool that require modification to your consent form? So you're trying to do, no, that wouldn't work. Okay, they give you an example. A population require bilingual forms. Answer that. Request for waiver of documentation of informed consent. Most of you, a lot of you are working with children, so you won't be able to use this one. But you can walk through it because yours, I was just reading it, but you can walk through it because your studies are different. That's fine. Okay, so then you're actually going, so that's the part where you are writing, you're filling that out, you're making those 9 pages into like 15 pages with the information that you are filling. I don't know if it's that long, but you know, you're putting in paragraphs, or right now there's these little gray boxes. Then you're going to walk into the checklist of submission documents. You're going to have the IRB application you just walked through. You're going to have the consent forms. Notice there are a few sample consent forms. Just use those. Question survey instrument. You're going to actually bring your survey instrument to the IRB and say, hey, these are the questions I plan on asking to the people I'm going to be talking to. So you need to do that work beforehand. You need to be thinking through what questions would help me find the answers to my simple question. Do I have to nail them all? No. Do you have to know 15 out of 15 of the questions that you are going to ask and have them perfect? No. No. You and your advisor may well work through several versions of your survey, your interview questions, whatever it's going to be, and that's fine. But you are taking your best foot and putting it forward when you go before IRB. You are, as a graduate student, you and your advisor are probably not going to rewrite the entire thing. They're going to change. You are going to change questions. You're going to make sure those questions sound right academically, but the survey instrument, the questionnaires, that should probably be 75% done, if not more, by the time you get to this point. So if you need to start thinking about that, you want to run some of those questions by me, be my guest, that's fine. So you also need to prove to them, so the form which you uploaded this week to the human participants training form, you'll be providing that with this submission of documents as well. And then any other forms such as recruitment materials, advertising documents, debriefing scripts, etc. So if you're going to use anything like that, you would include it there. This is what the IRB will fill out. They will give you a check, and then the project is exempt from IRB under review category, and they'll talk about these things. They'll fill this out, and they will give you some number of checks on this paper or descriptions, and someone will sign it. And that's that. Okay. You may be asked for your presentation. You may be asked for your PowerPoint presentation. You may not be. If there is some trouble understanding what the application provides, maybe they will say, "Hey, can we see a PowerPoint?" They might ask for an email from you to explain something, but you need to enter this IRB application with the hope that everything that you have said is obvious and everything that you have provided is explicit, and they don't have any questions because you have answered everything as overtly, explicitly, exactly in detail as you need to. Okay, so that, in a nutshell, in half an hour, is the IRB application. I'm going to stop the recording, but